Europe itself obviously contending with quite a new reality already for 2 years, if one can already still call it a new reality. And for that, let's go straight to London. We're joined via Skype by I24 News European correspondent Jonathan Sacerdoti. Jonathan, good morning to you. I am assuming the UK, all of Europe, but let's touch firstly on Britain, waking up this morning to yet again what has become what seems to be a reality and partly a routine of attacks. And again, we don't know the origins of this one, but it's not boding well in Europe. Reactions in the UK this morning, what are those?
Good morning, Yael. Well, this attack made good time for the British and other European newspapers. So, of course, it splashed across the front pages, not just this attack, but also the killing in Turkey of the Russian ambassador. These two things really timed and executed for maximum benefit for the terrorists, if that was indeed what they both were, terrorist attacks. We can see that one of them was filmed live and then broadcast in an art gallery, a white cube almost, and the other, this brutal attack, has made all those front pages that you can see. You've got the Guardian splashing it on the front page, and also, in fact, all of the British papers, the Telegraph, the Express, the Metro, all of them just referencing this horrific
and exactly,
attack.
And Jonathan, as we said, the Daily Telegraph that we're looking at right now, Christmas market terror, the Guardian prior to that calling it a horror. Once again, this seems, it looks, you know, I hate to quote politicians, but it, you know, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, people would say. That said, irrespective of the motive here, and this investigation in Berlin is ongoing, as we know, what does this do this morning, Jonathan, when it comes to the politics in the continent itself?
Well, Germany had feared an attack like this, and just this month, the UK Foreign Office had revised its travel advice for Britons visiting Germany, saying that there was a high threat from terrorism, adding that you should remain vigilant. And in Germany, extra police and guards, as well as bollards and other measures like that, had been placed around Christmas markets. It was known this was a soft target. But as you've been discussing there in the studio, it's also something that's, this has just shown how difficult it is, even with those extra precautions, to effectively protect people when they are, in effect, going about their everyday lives. It's very symbolic, of course, as well, that this is a Christmas market. Attacks on Christmas, Christian tradition are things that terror groups have long been wanting to execute in Europe to send a clear and strong message. And Al-Qaeda and ISIS have for some time been looking at attacks like this. This is reminiscent even of an attack 16 years ago where Al-Qaeda planned to detonate a truck bomb outside the Strasbourg Christmas market. And that was foiled by British intelligence, who informed European intelligence, and indeed those terrorists were stopped and found preparing their bombs. But now, at the urging of ISIS, in fact, other people have been able to act individually without the need for large transfers of cash, without the need for explosives, simply using these highly effective and brutal measures that we saw in these, and now again yesterday, where a giant truck itself can be used as the murder weapon.
As the murder weapon. Jonathan, do stay with us. I'm stopping you. You did mention before, we know this, it was a night of carnage all around the world when it comes to the story of the Russian ambassador being killed in Turkey. The U.S. has just announced that it's closed its consulate and mission right in Ankara, Istanbul. We're assuming that this is for security reasons at this point in time. We obviously will touch on that very shortly. Really quickly with you again, Jonathan, when it comes to Europe, and we're theorizing, but with several elections up on the horizon, so to speak, in a place like France, an attack like such, Marine Le Pen in that respect, you know, are we looking at right parties now actually getting more, you know, more power to move the pendulum, so to speak, to their side of the political spectrum?
Absolutely, and Angela Merkel is going to be looking at this, wondering what it will do for her chances of re-election. As you said, standing again for election, and now many are already pointing to her policy of having such open doors to migrants, and the possibility that the driver of this lorry was a migrant, whether he was Pakistani or from somewhere else. People are already asking questions about what the migration policy has done to Europe in terms of the terror threat. Those far-right groups, those groups which are against the immigration, are of course rise, and that's the fear across Europe, that during these upcoming elections, it could be those parties that could win, and that could have a negative effect in other parts of people's lives in the continent, because those parties may have tough policies on immigration, but they also have tough policies elsewhere, and they are also occupying an uncomfortable space for Europe, which remembers all too well the effects of having the far right in power.
Very well put. Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you for joining us from London this morning. And obviously, as we were looking at these live pictures from Berlin, the aftermath of that scene of the attack, as we see it right now next to that Christmas market, it is the Christmas season, and the events in Europe raising alarm in another place in the world, obviously, where it was also tweeted about by the president-elect, by Donald Trump, but raising alarm and concern in the United States.